So hopefully you have familiarized yourself with this formative task, so you should really know how to draw graphs on the Desmos. So all you have to do for this one is graph these 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 graphs on Desmos, and then put your screenshot in here. That's it. Alright, and then what we're going to observe is answer some questions. So it says, from your graph, which 2 of the given lines appear to be parallel? So out of these graphs, 1, 2, 3, 4, you need to choose 2. You can highlight it and copy and paste it on my document and literally paste it onto here. And then talk about which one seems parallel. Right, all you have to do is state 2 equations out of these 4. I don't know which one, you got to choose it. Now, having a look at the general form, y equals mx plus c. So these are all in general form. Y equals mx plus c. 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 Hopefully you get the idea. What do you notice about the m values of the 2 lines? There's 2 equations here. Y equals y equals. I don't know which ones you wrote. That's for you to decide. What do you notice about the m values? Right? You've got to figure out which one's the m values, and you have to tell me about what you notice about from equation this one, from these 2 equations. Then, on the basis of this observation from part C, you need to tell me a conjecture. Now, if you don't know what a conjecture means, Google it. This is an inquiry-based school. Google what a conjecture means. What does it mean? What does it mean to write a conjecture? So you have to basically write a conjecture about gradients of parallel lines. So basically, you need to write some sort of rule for parallel lines about gradients. Alright, so I'll leave that up to you. It's meant to be challenging. It's not meant to be easy, so have a think about it. These questions will help answer you for question D. Once you do D and you've got a little bit of rule for yourself, you should be able to answer 1E. You've got your m values, m1 and m2. These 2 equations are parallel, so you should be able to write some sort of equation here in terms of m1 and m2. Right? Write a relationship, meaning an equation between m1 and m2. How can I, write m1 and m2 as an equation? How do I relate them to each other? What are they to each other? Right, once you're done, you need to draw 4 more parallel lines. You get to choose the gradient m and the y-intercept c. Alright, so draw these. So you need to write it over here. You need to actually put those numbers, whatever you choose, in these little boxes in Word, and then make sure you've got the screenshot of it in here. Have a think. To draw 4 parallel lines, what would you have to make sure, right, out of these? What do you have to make sure is the same? Well, no, we talked about it over here. For it to be a parallel line, you need to think about that. If they don't all look parallel, if they look a little bit funky like this, you don't have the right answer here. You're going to have to redo this. Now, once you've taken your screenshot, you need to describe your results and observation. Does it agree with your rule that you made up over here, conjecture you made up over here? Does it or does it not? What do you notice about it? How does it confirm your data? That's it for part 1. Part 2, I've already done an example for you. You need to just basically graph these. Right? Get a screenshot. Now, you can use an online protractor thing. So Google online protractor. You can use a real protractor if you want. Alright? See if you can figure it out. If you're struggling, I'll help you on your back. Or let me know, email me and we can figure it out. I can send you the online protractor specific one that I used. But I want you to try to figure it out. It's an inquiry based, it's a DI for reasons for you to figure it out. You need to screenshot it if you can, and then describe your results. So what do you see about the angle between the 2 lines? So for the find intersection, so you can, what is an intersection? You need to find it on this graph, and you need to label it as point P. On Desmos, if you write an x and y coordinate, whatever number you put in there, it will show up on the graph. So if you put in the right one, x and y, it'll come up as a dot. I'm not going to tell you where the intersection is. Hopefully you understand where an intersection is of these red and blue graph. But a dot should appear if you put in the right numbers. Now, how do you put in the right number? If this, let's say, if this is the intersection I want, I would put my cursor over here and it'll come up with a coordinate for you. So you just have to copy that x and y coordinate down in the Desmos-like area on the left-hand side where you put the equation. Alright, so screenshot it and make sure that's there. And make sure you have P and then write the coordinates as well. State coordinates of the y-intercept of each line. So have a look. Which one's the slope, which one's the y-intercept, right? These numbers represent something. So what is the y-intercept of each line? You need to label these point as A for line 1 and point B for line 2. So be careful. A is for line 1, B coordinate is for line 2. Okay, so you need to write the coordinates of the two y-intercepts. You can either look at the graph to figure it out or look at this to figure it out. You should be able to do it. Section 10, let's have a look. 10D, axis intercept, will help you with it. So that will help you with it. So have a look if you need more help. Now this is a hard part. You need to figure, so you've got your point P, you've got your coordinate, you've got your point A, you've got your coordinate, you've got your point B, and you've got your coordinate. So basically they're 3 dots, P, A, B on your page. What you want to do is calculate the length of PA, so you've got to calculate that length, PB, and then AB. So you've got to calculate those 3 lengths. How do you do that? Well, we learnt it. We learnt how to figure out distances between 2 points. You should be able to figure this one, and this one out, right? So show you're working out. I don't mind if you do that on a piece of paper and take a photo of it and upload it, or just keep a copy of it and hand it to me later, or you can type it up by using an equation function on Word. So you should be able to do that. Now, once you're done with finding these 3 distances, you need to show me this holds. You need to basically do that equation and go tick. And what you have to do after is explain the significance of the result. Okay? Now, after you've done that one, you need to figure out which is more convincing evidence that line 1 and line 2 are perpendicular. So you've got to compare 2B and 2D. So have a look at 2B. 2B was about using protractors. So is that accurate? Or is this accurate? This method over here. You need to think about what this method means. Hopefully you've explained the significance of it and understand what it means. So you tell me which one's more convincing? Is it the protractor or is it the equation? You have to explain it. Make sure you explain it thoroughly. Alright, then you're going to do basically the same thing again. You're going to do 2 graphs. Alright, insert the equation here, or the graph, I mean. You have to figure out the angle using a protractor. Again, using the online protractor or a physical one, I don't mind. And then find the point of intersection again and label it point Q this time, not P. Right, same thing. So you need to write basically Q this time, and then write your coordinate X and Y. So write it down. What do you notice about the M values from the equation of the 2 lines? So have a look. Which ones are M out of these equations? What do you notice about them? You need to explain what you see. Explain. Then state the y-intercepts of each line. Right? So have a look again. Out of these, over here, which one's a y-intercept for line 3? So right, line 3. Y-intercept is line 4. We'll do maybe a dot instead of a dash. Y-intercept is, write your answers. Okay? By considering the length of, again, same, we're doing these 3 lengths again. So now we know Q, now we know C, now we know D, right? You got to figure out those lengths. Length 1, length 2, length 3, and then figure out if this holds again. Is it a tick or is it not a tick? And then explain your result. You've got to explain that result. Alright, 2I, you're going to basically have a look at the gradient of the line. The gradient of any line parallel to line L is, you need to write your answers here. You need to figure out gradient of any perpendicular lines over here. Right, what you're going to do after is summarize the relationship, any patterns you have found about parallel and perpendicular lines. So you're basically summarizing all the things you've done so far. Okay, last part. Consider the general case. So you're talking about y equals mx plus c. You need to write the gradient, so have a look. Which one's a gradient, right? Which ones state the value of the gradient of any line parallel to this line. We've done that stuff, so you should know it. State the value of the gradient of any line perpendicular to this line. You should be able to figure that out. Now we're considering two graphs, y1 and y2. Notice that these lines intersect at the origin. Okay, over here we've got a graph. You could try graphing it yourself in the Desmos if you want, but that's what we get apparently. You have to make a conjecture about the angle between these lines. Okay, we'll have a look. We've got a over b as a slope, negative b over a as a slope. What do we know about those two values? What do we know about the angle between these two? Is it 90? Is it 40? Is it 30? I don't know. What do you reckon? You need to talk to me about it. And then verify your conjecture in 2KI by any means. So you need to verify it. I'm not going to tell you how. That's the hard part. You've got to figure it out. How would you prove what you wrote in here? Alright, part 3, real life scenario. So in this case, you've got to read what's going on. So for example, it costs $2 to hop in a taxi and then 50 cents for every kilometer. So you've got to figure out this answer, the answer. And explain in your own words what this table is showing. So explain it. And then find the equation of the line, which is linear relationship between x and c. So we're not using y and x anymore. We're using x and c, so just be careful. Right, if you need help with that, we've done that in, I reckon, which one was it? This part where we looked at relationships, 10E, alright? So go back to that one. Ooh. Go back to that one, guys. So I'll go refer back to 10E for help. Plot the graph of cost against distance traveled against using Desmos. So once you've got an equation, right, dot, 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 you figured it out. Now I want you to graph it. So put your graph over here once you do it. Oh, insert screenshot here, my bad. State the gradient of the line. So you've got your equation from 3i. So over here, that's your equation. You need to be able to tell me what the gradient of the line is. So that should be pretty easy. Now you need to tell me what that real life interpretation of the gradient means, right? Refer to cost in your answer. It even gives you a hint. Then state the y-intercept of the line. What is the real life interpretation of this y-intercept in terms of cost taxi fare? You gotta write all those. Solve the following real-world problem. If the flag fall increases to $3.50 and the cost per kilometre goes up by an extra 58 cents, what is the total taxi fare cost for 152 kilometre trip? You need to figure that out. How can you be sure your answer to the question 3 is correct? You've got to figure that out. 3G. Is it reasonable considering a real-life scenario such as a riding in a taxi to model taxi fare costs by joining the dots of data to form a straight line? You need to tell me if that is actually reasonable in real-life scenarios. Is it always going to be a linear line? Have a think. At your taxi, is it going to be always a linear line? Is it always going to be consistently increasing? Why would it not? What happens in a taxi? What happens in the traffic? Have a think about that, and you need to explain your answer as much as you can. Alright, that's basically it. Content-wise, you do also have to do intro and conclusion, and we'll talk about that more later. But I want you to focus on getting all of the content done first.